Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the next Halloween special installment. In today's video I am going to be taking a look at 1987's Hellraiser. But before I jump in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hellraiser, released in 1987, directed by Clive Barker. This movie stands as a cornerstone in the realm of horror cinema. Adapted from Barker's own novel, The Hellbound Heart, the film delves deep into the hidden recesses of human desire and the monstrous consequences that often follow the pursuit of such extremes. This story centers around an unassuming household that becomes the epicenter of supernatural horror when an ancient puzzle box known as the Lament Configuration is discovered. This seemingly harmless looking puzzle box summons the Cenobites, a group of evil beings from another dimension led by the iconic Pinhead. These entities are neither strictly demonic nor angelic, but rather explores a further regions of experience, indulging in the limits of pleasure and pain. Hellraiser tells the story of a man named Frank who opens the mysterious puzzle box, inadvertently summoning the Cenobites, who proceed to subject Frank to extreme forms of torture, dragging him into their hellish dimension. The film then shifts to Frank's brother Larry and his wife Julia, who move into the family home where Frank met his gruesome fate. Now, Julia had an affair with Frank before Frank disappeared with these Cenobites. Julia discovers Frank's mangled yet still somehow living body form in the attic and learns that he can actually be resurrected through other human sacrifices. As Julia lures unsuspecting victims to restore Frank's body, Larry's daughter Kirsty becomes suspicious and eventually encounters the Cenobites herself. She promises to deliver Frank back to them and she negotiates her way out with a deal, but not without some gruesome consequences. The cinematic style and direction of Hellraiser is unmistakably unique, and it plays a crucial role in establishing the film's cult status. Hellraiser is marked by a dark, surreal aesthetic that, perfectly captures the nightmarish essence of its source material. Now, Clive Barker's direction emphasizes a blend of a visceral horror with a deeply unsettling, almost gothic atmosphere. The practical effects used to bring the Cenobites and the infamous puzzle box to life are disturbingly realistic, especially considering the film's budget and the era in which this film was made. These effects, combined with Chris Young's haunting score, oh yes, the music score for this movie is incredible. Now, altogether, it creates this atmosphere of constant dread and tension. Barker's use of close-up shots and slow tracking movements intensifies the film's psychological horror, allowing viewers to fully absorb the grotesque details and complex emotions of each character, particularly the tormented Frank and the coldly obsessive Julia. Even though when people think of Hellraiser, they automatically picture Pinhead, who is amazing, but each of the other Cenobites have a masterpiece of horror makeup that will also leave an indent on your brain. I personally feel that this film was ahead of its time. If you have a friend or a family member who has never watched Hellraiser, and then if you sit down with them and watch it together, I can guarantee that their reactions will be incredible for an 80s movie. I can only imagine what their reaction was like when it first came out in 1987. Actually, that's a really great question for some of you guys to answer if you were around then. Now guys, if you went to the theatre to watch Hellraiser back in 1987, what was the reaction like? Let me know. As always, the film does have a final girl, and it comes in the form of Larry's daughter, Kirsty, portrayed by Ashley Lawrence, who I think does a really good job. Now, I wouldn't class her in my top 3 final girls, but she's not in my bottom 3 either. Kirsty's character embodies resilience and inquisitiveness. Now, Ashley Lawrence's performance illuminates her evolution from ordinary young woman at the start of the film to a more determined survivor by the end of the film, confronting horrors beyond her understanding and ours, and also witnessing her father's dead skinned body, followed by the skin then being used on Frank's body and then being ripped apart. I mean, her palpable fear and eventual empowerment are convincing, and it does really anchor the viewer through this, I suppose, macabre journey. Doug Bradley's portrayal of Pinhead is central to the film's chilling atmosphere. With his cold, imposing presence, Bradley transforms Pinhead into a figure of dread and twist. His calm yet menacing statue creates a hauntingly memorable antagonist, an entity driven by an inhuman code of pain and pleasure. Now, believe it or not, Pinhead doesn't really play a big part in this movie, not until maybe in the later half in the third act, but he still manages to create himself as a horror icon. Now, Claire Higgins' depiction of Julia adds depth to the film's sinister undertones. Julia's descent from a dissatisfied wife to an accomplice in grotesque resurrections show her as both manipulative and tragically obsessed. Now, the actress brings a complex, almost Shakespearean quality to her villainy, making Julia a terrifying yet relatable figure driven by love and desperation. Andrew Robinson as Larry offers a stark contrast with his naive, well-meaning disposition. I mean, his role may seem supporting, but it underscores the underlying tragic elements of family betrayal and horror. One of the standout moments for me is when Frank is first resurrected after Larry cuts his finger open and then he drops some blood onto those floorboards, and it then causes Frank to come back from the dead in his rotting, corpsed body. He literally melts up from underneath the floorboards in this pool of slime and grime. It's proper gross, but I flippin' love it. It's amazing. I first watched Hellraiser in my mid-teens, maybe around 15 or 16 years old, and I can remember thinking at the end of the movie when the end credits were rolling that this is the sort of horror film that will give you nightmares, because it really is nightmare-inducing. Hellraiser has become a cult classic, celebrated for its unique blend of horror, fantasy, and grotesque. Now, Clive Barker's vision, combined with the practical effects, gives the film an enduring appeal. And there have been many sequels, and there's also a remake which I haven't watched yet, but do not worry, I do plan on watching it very soon. But if you're ready to explore the forbidden, unlock the puzzle box, and confront the Cenobites, Hellraiser awaits. Just remember, pleasure and pain are two sides of the same coin in this dark, twisted universe. I am going to give Hellraiser a very well-deserved 8.5 out of 10 for its uniqueness and the fact that it was way ahead of its time, and because it still stands up as an amazing horror masterpiece to this very day. And there you have it, my fellow horror fans. We've journeyed through the twisted corridors of the Lament configuration, danced with the Cenobites, and glimpsed into the forbidden pleasures of Hellraiser. But before we close this chapter, remember to hit that subscribe button if you crave more spine-tingling content, and don't forget to hit that bell, because who knows what otherworldly horrors awaits you in the next video. I'll see you tomorrow, guys.